Hello, and welcome to the Effects Loop. I'm Byrne. I'm your host for this episode. Today we are doing 2 pedals, 1 amp. And I'm going to use this as kind of like a... I've been wanting to do a video on these JHS 3 series pedals, and I've got 2 of them. I did have 3 at one point in time, and I'll talk about that after. But right now I have 2. I have the Screamer and I have the Flanger. So we're going to talk about those 2 pedals. Those are going to be the 2 pedals. I'm going into my Fender Tone Master Twin Reverb because it just makes sense. It works with that amp pretty well. These 3 series pedals, I'll give you a little background on the 3 series pedals first in case, yeah, I'm sure you're probably aware of them if you're watching this video, but there might be people out there that aren't. So, they're technically considered a budget line. They go for $99 a piece, so they're $100, just under $100. And they're considered budget pedals by JHS because JHS pedals in general run $250, $300. These are budget by their standards. But what's kind of nice about these pedals is they're still boutique pedals. They're well made. They're very basic in their design and in the way that they look. And if you know JHS pedals, you know that they're solid. They're well made, they're not junk. They're good pedals. So we've got 2 here. We've got a Screamer and a Flanger. Alright. Do the Flanger first because the Flanger is kind of the easiest one to do because it's a flanger. I mean, what are you gonna do with the Flanger? This is my clean tone. And here we go. Let's put the Flanger on here so you can hear it. I have it set pretty mildly at the moment. But here we go, we got so yeah, it's a flanger. It does the thing a flanger does. It has 2 modes on it actually. It's got a switch here. One says tape and one is doesn't say anything. But if you put it on the tape mode, you get like a thicker, more, I don't know how to describe it, a deeper sounding flange. Because listen, I'll play the something like that, you know, you get that kind of vibe out of it, which is not bad. For a flanger, what I really like about this flanger is it has a blend knob, so you can make it subtle. You just let me put it on the regular version, the regular setting here. If you put the blend in, as you increase the blend, this blend rate and intensity, the blend can get nice and thick. And if you want to put your rate up, I mean, listen. You get that really nice, heavy, thick flangery sound. If that's what you're looking for out of this pedal, it can do it. What I actually like about these JHS pedals, and it seems to run the gamut with the line of JHS pedals, with the ones that I've tried at least, they tend to give you a lot more volume and effect level than other pedals. Like it'll essentially it'll copy a certain type of pedal. Like, I'm not sure exactly what they're trying to copy with this flanger pedal. It's probably just a combination of different flanger pedals and their own take on it. However, what you get is you get a version of that basic flanger pedal that, you know, has more range that you can really, like if I crank the blend, rate, and intensity up all the way, I mean, this is a pretty unusable sound. I don't really know what you would use that for. And if I click it into tape mode, it's even crazier. Listen. That might be kind of cool if you were doing like score music to a horror film or something like that, and you wanted to use that on on keys or something. But yeah, also, I mean, you can't see it right here, but I'll get a shot of it. The LED light, the red LED light, fluctuates with the actual flange tone on the pedal. So yeah, honestly, I find the tape mode, the switch, the little switch, it's cool because all these 3 series pedals, they all have a switch, and you get a separate mode. So it's like you get 2 pedals in one for $100, which isn't bad. I mean, you can buy a cheap flange for $50 if you want to, but these things are solid. They're well made. They're solid. They're kind of bland looking. They literally look like I don't think people actually got the because I see a lot of reviews where people talk about how they made the pedals and what they look like, and I don't think people actually got the point of what they were doing. These pedals definitely are designed like, how to describe this? They you used to see, I don't know if they still sell it, but in supermarkets you used to see these generic brands. It was literally a white box that was generic. It would be like cereal, and it'd be a white box, and it'd be a certain type of cereal or a certain type of this, or corn puffs in a white box. Super generic with very basic font. That's kind of what they're going for here. It's almost like a take on that idea. I mean, it's pretty obvious that that's what they intended with the look and the style of this. But yeah. So that's our flange, all right? Now we'll move along to the screamer, so you can check out what the screamer is here. And what's really cool about this screamer is the screamer has 2 modes as well. It's got a plus and a minus mode. When it's clicked up, it is in the JHS. Okay, I'll give you a little background on the screamer pedal as well. It's a tube screamer, obviously. But what it is JHS did the Bonsai. It was their green pedal, which had, I think it was 8 tube screamers on it. It basically had like every possible tube screamer you could imagine. It had a TS-808, it had a TS-9, it had a TS-10, it had variations on those, and there was also a JHS mode on it, which was JHS's mod. Because JHS used to take tube screamers like 808s and mod them for people with their own JHS mod. The JHS mod, basically what it does is it turns it more almost into a distortion pedal, where you can get the tube screamer element of it, but as you turn it up, you get a lot more distortion and a lot more grit. You can use it as a straight up distortion pedal with the JHS mode. You get way more volume and a lot more distortion. Now, if you flick the switch down, you basically have a stock TS9. So it's not an 808, it's actually a TS9, which is a little different sounding. I think it's a little brighter sounding, the TS9, than the 808. But so, honestly, if you compare an 808 to a TS9, they're so close. Some people prefer the TS9 over the 808. But we are talking, I mean, for tube screamers, we are talking such minor differences. Like, differences so minor that most human ears cannot tell the difference between them. Now, I'm going to say I don't think this pedal gives you the straight up tube screamer sound as good as, say, like even like an Ibanez TS-808 Mini. It still has a flavor to it that's different. It almost feels like a distortion pedal, but it's very usable and a good pedal. I'll give you some demonstrations here. This is, I have it on the JHS mode right now, and I have it dialed back quite a bit. But I mean, this is, I mean, yeah. that is, even at a lower setting that I have it on right now, that is essentially a distortion pedal. I mean, and that's the JHS mode. If I leave it right on all these settings, then click it down, actually, you can hear it go down. It's still in essence a TS9 with more distortion, okay? But you can do the very typical like tube screamer boosting an amp thing. It doesn't seem to work at the same settings that, like, say, there's a very classic setting for a general tube screamer where you take the level, you crank the level, you bring the gain all the way down, you put your tone like in the middle, or adjust to taste basically. And that's a classic setting for a tube screamer. Now, if I do that, if I take the drive, put the drive all the way down, put my tone in the middle, and crank my volume, yeah, this is on the TS9 setting. It's not bad, actually. It's not bad at all. It's a little bit too hot, though. It's much hotter than a typical TS9 in that setting, where it's almost just like goosing an amp, But sorry, hold on a second. Put this back to the way it was. I find the tone knob very. If you notice the tone. I mean, it can get pretty shrill. Like the tone knob, if you bring it all the way down, it's a bit on the muddy side. So, I mean, you really got to mess with the knobs on these to kind of find what you want, find your right spots, because I find that they don't correspond, especially this screamer, it doesn't correspond to any typical tube screamer settings that maybe you've been using for years on like a regular TS808 or something like that. It really kind of does its own thing, and you sort of need to like figure out how to use that thing. But I think it's a very, very usable pedal. That being said, I actually went out and bought myself a TS808 Mini. I used to have one. I rebought one again, and I have that. And for a straight up tube screamer duty, I kind of like the TS808 better than this JHS screamer. Although I'm not saying the screamer is bad. I'm saying if you're looking for something that you just want to take over your amp, if you're almost like a distortion pedal in its own right, because they also have a distortion. I had the JHS distortion, and that was kind of cool. That was kind of like a DS1, like a Boss DS1, but had a slightly different flavor to it. I wouldn't mind actually having that pedal back again. I wouldn't mind actually having like every single pedal from the Series 3 line, because they're basic, but they do what these pedals are supposed to do. They do the right thing. Like the fuzz, I actually want to get the fuzz, because the fuzz is supposedly a pretty good fuzz pedal. They do the thing that you get a tube screamer. I mean, you can do the tube screamer thing. You got a flanger. I really like the flanger because you can dial in the blend really mild if you want to. What I do like about these pedals is that they stack really well. Because look, I'll put the flange on and you can hear for yourself. Works really well. I mean, you can kick up that blend knob on the flange and then you start getting heavier. But yeah, they work very, very well together. And honestly, I see if somebody could have an entire board of just these three series pedals, and it would sound great. I mean, you'd have an awesome pedal board, and it would do pretty much everything you'd ever need a pedal board to do. Are they worth it for $100? I think so. I think if you want that step up from the super cheap pedals that tend to run between the $30 and the $50 range, and you know, maybe you can find some cheaper pedals for around $70 or so. But if you want that step up in quality, I think these are a nice step up in quality. Now, are they the best looking things in the world? No. We get a whole pedal board with these pedals on it, you'd probably be confused because they all look the same. You'd have to really make sure you could see the titles, because otherwise you wouldn't know what the hell you were hitting when you were actually playing. However, I think that they, you know, they do what they're supposed to do really well. I mean, that's the best that I can say about them. I really don't have any complaints. I like them. They work. I love the flange. I had a Boss flange. I think it's a BF, the flanger BF2 or something like that. I can't remember the exact model number on the Boss flange. If I find it, I'll pop it on the bottom of the screen. But I had a Boss flanger that it was just a little too thick and a little too heavy, and it tended to mud out my sound a bit when I used it, and I wasn't the biggest fan of it. Like, I had it twice, and I sold it both times. A flanger in me, I have issue. I'm not the biggest fan of flangers, and I you know, it's an effect that I don't use that often, but I like to have one. So I like this one, the fact that you can make it nice and subtle, and that it sounds good subtle. I like that you can make it subtle like that, and you can do that thing where, like, you had, you know, guys like, you know, you do the Andy Summers thing with it, where in all actuality Andy Summers used a flanger and not a chorus, and he just set it really light. There's a lot of 80s kind of like rock artists that did that, where instead of using a chorus they used a flanger. However, I mean, I like using a chorus before my distortion because I think it kind of adds a cool touch to it. But yeah, I don't know what else to say about them really, other than they are not battery powered, because actually none of the JHS pedals are battery powered. You have to use a power supply for them. They take a straight 9-volt power supply. It works perfectly fine with my one spot. You can plug it into any of the inputs on the one spot and it's fine. Yeah, I mean, if you're looking for a tube screamer that maybe does a little bit more, that's a great deal. The JHS 3 Screamer is a great deal, and this flanger is great. If you're not like a huge flanger person, but you like to have the effect available, if you want to use it, it's there, but you want something that you can kind of kick back and subtle, this blend knob is awesome because you can actually really make it nice and subtle, and yeah, it's a good pedal. So yeah, so I hope you enjoyed that episode. If you like this kind of content, like, subscribe, leave a comment, you know, below. If you got any questions for me, please leave them in the comments, because I really want to do some viewer comment, viewer questions episodes, but I don't really have enough to do that at this point. I have some. I might still do one. I don't know. I got to go through them and go through it, but it'd be nice to have some questions to actually answer, you know. But yeah, so thanks. This has been the FX Loop. I'm Jay Byrne. I hope you enjoyed.